Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Hello.
Hello.
Do you have problems asking for what you want? Do you need more money in your life? Could you, maybe use a freaking break or stop pleasing everyone by saying yes all the time?
Did you know you're listening to an infomercial right now?
Well, I was just trying to jazz it up a little bit. Either way, you might need to learn how to negotiate. And that's a scary thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, the times I've asked, and you know me, you wouldn't think I would be the kind of person who would be most likely to be terrified of negotiating.
I do think it would come more easily to you than other people.
Well, I think it does. And it has terrified me. So I can only imagine how much harder it is for people who really actually give a damn what other people think.
As a recovering people pleaser, this makes me sweat just thinking about it.
Right. So I am really excited about this conversation that we had with Devon. She is like the nicest, funniest person who also is a badass at getting to help, helping people get what they want.
She makes negotiation really accessible and way less scary.
Yeah, and she really busts through a lot of myths about what it is and isn't, because I think a lot of us have an interpretation that's incorrect.
Well, not just that, but what are all the things you can negotiate? Because a lot of people are going to look at this title and say, oh, negotiation for a higher salary.
Well, I can't make more money. I know that I have a cap on that.
But we're talking about negotiating in every area of life, little and small things. So you guys are going to get a lot out of this, not just about career, but everything. So let's get a little bit more into who Devon is.
Okay.
Devon Smiley is a negotiation consultant and speaker with 15 years of experience with Forbes' finest and small businesses alike. She closed $5 billion of commercial contracts as a lead negotiator and brings this experience to organizations, entrepreneurs, and founders focused on securing strong commercial results without sacrificing relationships. Devon's global consultancy firm works with companies of all sizes, and she contributes as mentor and advisor for programs including Startup Bootcamp FinCamp NYC, Startup Canada, and the HEC Paris Incubator at Station F. Her insights on negotiation have been featured in the New York Times, Glamour magazine, and the Chicago Tribune. A strong believer that negotiation benefits more than just the bottom line, Devon is honored to work with pro bono partners including the Clinton Foundation and UN Women to lead negotiation skills training for their teams and communities. That's cool. She's done negotiation with some bigwigs.
Well, she's negotiated a lot of money, which is something I find funny because we're all like, oh my God, I can't ask for $3,000 more, and she's asking for like $1 billion more. So and one of the things I thought she said that was really funny was that she's just as scared when she asks for millions of dollars as she does when she asks for the key to the bathroom at Starbucks.
I know. It's the ask. It's not even what you're asking for that's really scary.
Yeah. So many awesome nuggets in this. We hope you enjoy. And at the end, we will be back to give you some further listening. Hey, Devon.
Hi,
Devon.
Hey
there.
Hi. Okay, we're really pumped about this. So, fun fact, Devon is Canadian, but she lives in Paris. So she's a true international.
I am a glamorous Paris at the moment.
How did that happen? Like, you can give us the real quick, I'm just really curious how that happened, like how you ended up in France.
Long story short, I was in Montreal before, and the funny reason why I left is after 17 Montreal winters, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, okay.
I don't blame you.
That's understandable.
It was a little ridiculous. The more serious reason is that I decided I wanted to spend a lot more of my energy working with startups, and Paris has a really booming startup scene. And I kind of thought, okay, if I'm going to pick up my life and move anywhere, it might as well be Paris.
I mean,
Might as
right?
well.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
fantastic.
my arm on that one.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I promise I will get to the point of this episode in a second, but it just occurred to me that Paris and France in general has what I believe to be from the outside a much more healthy approach to work-life balance. And like their work culture seems to be more, I don't know, like chill. And I'm curious, have you experienced any cultural shifts in that regard since moving to Paris, or are my notions outdated?
No, that is very much true. I think my biggest shock, and it's been this year, I've been working more on site with like retainer clients. So I'm really embedded in French offices now. And the very first day I went for a 2-hour lunch.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was like, well, no, Devon, you can't just go get a sandwich and eat at your desk. Like, we take a lunch here.
Oh my gosh.
And I've spent my entire career eating a sandwich with one hand and typing with the other through all of my lunch breaks. But it's funny because they tease me. They see about 45 minutes into any lunch, my eyes get a little nervous. Because like my internal clock is so set to like, this is wrong. I need to be back at work.
Oh my gosh, that is so true.
Listen to the woman speak.
I love that the peer pressure there is take longer lunches.
Yeah,
exactly. And at the end of the day, like I have workaholic tendencies. I am the first to admit. But you know, everyone else would be like, oh, we're going to go have a drink. Like, Devon, close your computer. Come with us. It's like, what?
I can do that?
It's so bizarre.
Wow. And this is in startup culture too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. Okay, guys.
It's wonderful.
So I just want to remind, when it occurred to me to ask that, I had to, because I really want to break I think that there's this just, when you live in a culture, you kind of are so embroiled in it, you stop and realize that we're not the only way, that there's a lot of other ways to live and operate. And that this is a very like Western, American, Canadian type of mentality of work. And there's a whole nother way to do it. And people are still making money and they're still profitable and they're still providing from themselves. And they're actually probably a lot happier. So you can do it too. Just because you live in a culture where people aren't necessarily embracing that doesn't mean you can't be a renegade. We are very much in favor of that.
You can bring some French culture into America or Canada.
2-hour lunches for everyone. Okay.
Okay. We're also really curious to hear more about how you got into this line of work of being a negotiation consultant.
It's very niche.
Because I had never heard of that before. I'm pretty sure probably most people listening are like, that's a thing? That's a job? So what is it? And how did you get into it?
Yeah, how did you get into this?
Well, I definitely, growing up, this wasn't on my list of like top 5 jobs I want to do when I'm a grown up.
You didn't answer that in kindergarten when someone asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up?
No, I was going to be like a beautiful ballerina or a brain surgeon at one point. Negotiation consultant was not going to be on there. I ended up a consultant because I started my corporate career, work. And at one point, the opportunity came up to move full-time into a contract negotiation role. And this was in the aerospace industry. And I was terrified because I was young, I was female, and I had never really done giant negotiations before. Mm-hmm. But I kind of thought, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. When an opportunity comes up in your career, take it. And I'm really glad I did, because it was in that role that negotiating day in and day out, it wasn't boring. It was slightly terrifying, but I learned so much about really the power of negotiation and building connections with people and communicating with people. And after a few years of that, I'd been coaching my coworkers. I was acting as a mentor to the junior employees. And I thought, there's so many other people in this world, founders, entrepreneurs, other people at big corporations who don't have access to a Devon. And they should have access to a Devon.
Agreed.
So I sort of went, hey, wait a minute. And leapt out on my own back in, it would be late 2014, early 2015.
Wow.
Okay.
And have been doing this ever since.
So I love that you were doing huge contracts, because there's a part of me that hears that and is like, oh, so like the $3,000 you're afraid to ask for more of, people are asking for like millions more dollars or billions more dollars.
Yeah.
And it kind of puts in perspective how scared we are of asking for what is the teeniest, tiniest of peanuts, basically.
Well, the fear is about the same at any level.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true.
I still have the same amount of fear when I need to ask someone to even do me a favor as I did asking for a $20 million cost reduction from a big vendor. The stomach churns. I still get the butterflies. It's like, we're human, and this is one of our reactions. It's how we move through it and deal with it and, do better next time is what this is going to be all about for us.
Yeah, it's the asking that's scary. It's not even what you're asking for at the end of the day.
It's literally just a symptom of being human.
Because we're all afraid of the rejection. No one likes to hear no. I mean, I remember being a kid and asking someone to dance at the middle school dance.
Oh, that's so brave. I would never have done that.
Very vulnerable.
Well, they weren't asking me, so I had to go ask them. Because I wasn't going to be a wallflower. But it still hurt when he said no.
Oh, no.
It's like, how many decades later?
He was probably so embarrassed too.
I mean, middle school in general is embarrassing for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah, but again, that feeling is just, I love that you said that there's literally no difference between asking someone for $20 million and asking for a favor. Like, can you help me go to the airport? Can you take me to the airport? Because it's just, humans have a thing about vulnerability. And we just, we have a fear of rejection. And therefore, I'm probably getting ahead of myself a little bit, but whatever. The fear is not a reason not to do it. The fear is just a symptom. It is not like a sign that you should therefore stop, which I think is what people do, is they interpret fear as, oh, if I'm afraid, I can't do it. I have to wait until I'm not afraid, which means you'll never do it.
Oh, no, you'll just sit there waiting for things to be handed to you. And then you'll be horribly upset when they aren't.
Right. And you'll wonder, why am I not making progress in my career? Or why are people not helping me?
Yeah.
So, okay, people have a lot of baggage around the idea of negotiation. I'm sure when the title of this episode alone probably triggered someone. So I don't even know what the title is, but I know it's going to have negotiation somewhere in it. Yeah. So I know it's triggering people.
Yeah. And I think I know where you're going to go, where you're going to go with this question, but I actually want to start really, really basic and just ask, can you define what you mean by negotiation?
No, that's probably a better place to start. Yeah. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Because people have a misconception of what the definition is, I imagine.
So a lot of people, when, you ask someone, what's a negotiation? Say, well, it's getting someone to give me what I want. It's like, like that kind of feels, feels a little weird. For me, I equate negotiation with transformation. And it is changing a situation that doesn't work for you into one that lights you up.
Oh, that's great.
That's a great definition.
It really changes the whole vibe around that word negotiation.
Well, one is very kind of, it seems selfish. Like, I need these people to give me what I want. There's like a scarcity mindset there. I got to hoard these resources.
It also might feel manipulative. Yeah. I have to coerce someone into giving me something that they don't want to give necessarily.
Yeah, they don't want to relinquish this to me. And your definition sounds much more like a win-win. Because if you're excited and you're lit up, then ostensibly everyone else is going to feel the ripple effect of that too.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be about being the victor in a situation.
Yes, right. Like, someone has to win and someone has to lose. I think that's how people... I mean, when I think of negotiation in the conversations I've had with clients about it, that's how I think people see it, is that I feel uncomfortable even asking because I don't like being the person who's going to take money away from someone else. Like, to take money away from this company and give it to myself feels wrong or selfish or uncomfortable. So that's a huge hang up. In your experience, and I'm sure you probably have a laundry list, so you don't have to go through all of them, but I am really curious to hear what you identify as some of the top, like, most, baggage that people have around the hang-ups they have, I guess is a better way to say that, around negotiation.
One of the really big ones ties back to that initial reaction people have about the word negotiation. And I have to say, I'm hoping people don't shy away when they see the title with negotiation in it, because when I actually launched my business, I was given some rather terrible advice to never ever use the word negotiation, to always use a euphemism for it, because negotiation would scare people away.
Wow.
I was like, if they are scared by the word, then they need me even more.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Maybe we'll call this episode, Listen to This If Negotiation Terrifies You.
It'll be okay, she promises.
Right. Negotiation for scared people.
And we're all scared people.
Right.
Exactly. It's this thing, the hang up people have about hearing the word negotiation, and all the imagery that comes to mind is like super aggressive dudes in navy blue suits, usually with a comb over, like banging their fist on the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
car salesman.
Sounds like very Wall Street.
slime, yeah. Coffee is for closers, the whole sort of crap that comes up around that. And I hear from both male and female clients that really turns them off of negotiation, because they feel like they have to become a whole other person. They have to be a jerk in order to be a great negotiator. And they like being their normal, nice, sweet selves, so they just don't negotiate.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly possible to be a nice human being and still get the results you need. Like, right. I would consider myself a rather nice human being. People are usually surprised I'm a negotiator because I seem too friendly. It's possible. You don't have to have a whole other persona in order to do it.
You can be yourself and also transform a situation into one that works better for you.
Well, I imagine you're also better at negotiating because you're friendly, because people like you and want to be around you. I mean, I think the idea that negotiating has to mean you're hard or you're difficult is kind of silly and backward when you think about it. Don't people want to get along with other people? Aren't they more, turned on by people who are pleasant?
Exactly. Like more flies with honey. Classic.
Yes.
Right.
Like, exactly.
Make this a good experience for people, and they're going to be more excited when they see the phone ring and your name come up next time.
Right.
So,
right.
If you're doing especially a negotiation that's going to be longer term, like someone you work with, you're going to have to see that person again. So maybe don't be a jerk.
Exactly.
Right.
Like haggling over a belt or a wallet in some market, and you're never going to see the person again. Doesn't really matter. Maybe you come in a little stronger. Maybe you don't have to be so nice. Drive the hard bargain. Relationships have a lot to do with life.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, that's one. So one major hang up is that people have this misinterpretation that you have to be a jerk or a hard ass aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other like major hang-ups that people get really stuck on?
Another thing people get really stuck on, especially when I work with people who are more creative minded, is they think they need a business degree or an MBA.
Oh,
like
I don't know enough.
Lawyers. Yeah. I don't have the right degree. I'm creative. My brain doesn't work like that. And they create all these stories about how they have they're lacking some sort of magical skill set. And really anyone can be a negotiator. I mean, some of the best negotiators I know are super creative people because they just view situations in entirely unique ways.
Yeah.
And there's solutions there that like even I can't see because my brain just doesn't work like theirs. So people give away so much power.
Right. Just assuming that this isn't going to work for me.
And that negotiation is very complicated. And
like it's mergers and acquisitions or something.
Right. I don't know enough about it to be able to do it well, so I'm not even going to bother. It's complicated. Yeah. I don't know enough. That's not how my brain works.
And so they start Googling and they end up on like the Harvard negotiation site. And like, I can't even make it through those articles without falling asleep. Right. And this is what I love to do. So,
right.
Yeah.
This can be simple is the preview of what you're saying is like, this does not have to be so complicated. Don't treat this like it's a 30-step process. No. Doesn't have to be like that. Okay. Any other major hangups that come to mind?
I'd say one of the ones that I hear a lot is people being afraid of looking greedy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I hear a lot of this, less so. I think a few years ago I heard less of this. But now I hear a lot more because people are trying to be very, mindful, and they're doing gratitude journals. And, I have to appreciate all the positives in life. And they view negotiation as something like, well, if I'm admitting I want more or I want different, then that is greedy of me. And I should just be content with what I have because what I have is a gift. And yes, what you have is a gift, but that doesn't mean you can't want more or different.
Yes, you can appreciate what you have and have more desires. You're always going to have more desires.
Yeah. And if you don't, then find one.
Right. What are we doing here?
That's a great part of life.
Yeah. It's not greedy to want things in life.
No.
Well, and I think this plays into, I mean, this is a whole nother topic of conversation, but this just plays into how many limiting beliefs and fears people have around money in general. That, it's not spiritual to be rich, or that, getting paid great sum of money somehow means that you're one of the bad guys because you're hoarding all of these resources. And I just think that makes no sense, because the more and better you get paid and treated, the more you can turn around and reinvest that into things that are actually useful for you and other people. I just don't understand how not earning what you're worth is helpful to anyone.
Yeah, spot on.
Okay.
Spot on. There's a really big connection. An exercise I work through with my clients is looking at that, the ripple of influence of, okay, yes, you get a raise at work. That's great for your bank account, but what else does it mean? And it means, I can put my kid into swimming lessons.
Yeah.
Great. I can fill an extra bag to donate to the food bank because my grocery budget can go up. Great. Mm-hmm. I can negotiate an afternoon a month where I can go volunteer. Great. So a lot more benefit can come than just like, oh, yay, a couple extra $1,000 in my bank account. Doesn't it feels a lot better?
Right. When you have more resources, you also have more resources to give back.
And choices in general.
Which is the opposite of greedy. So, okay. I'm also imagining what people are thinking right now. And I'm hearing some people thinking, what if I ask for something and I get rejected? I imagine that's a huge hang up too. That you hear a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to ask because, I don't want to deal with the fallout of being told no.
Exactly. And it's funny because so many people are afraid of no. As a negotiator, one of the things we have to train ourselves on is that we really want to hear a no. Because if we hear a yes right away, it means we probably didn't aim high enough.
Oh,
we weren't
that's
ambitious enough.
Point.
That is so true.
Yeah. Like your first request, that's just the start of the dance. If you want to get the no because it means you didn't leave something on the table, then you start the discussion. And that's how you're going to figure out where you really end up. But yeah, you want the no. And it's tough to train yourself on that because it still kind of stings.
Sure.
Yeah.
No one wants it.
It feels awkward.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I understand this won't work for you, but can you give me a suggestion of what would? Ask for the counter proposal.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is that a lot of people assume no is the final answer. No is the ending. I asked for a thing and I got a no. But you're saying a no is the beginning. A no is like, all right, now let's dance. Yeah. Now let's find out the sweet spot in between your no and what I'm asking for.
Precisely.
That's a really, really great different perspective.
That's a good reframe.
I like that a lot.
So, okay. I mean, I'm dying to talk about how we do this differently, which is your whole thing, negotiation done differently. But I still have questions about, I'm not done yet asking questions about the fears and the hangups and the problems people have with it. And one of the things that Kristen and I were talking about before that we really wanted to focus on with you is what's the relationship between women and negotiation? Because I mean, I've read some stuff, I've seen statistics, I have a lot of anecdotal evidence that would suggest that men are way more likely to try for something they're either not qualified for, negotiate outside the realm of what you would think is possible. And women are like, oh, I can't do that. Or if I'm not 100% qualified, I shouldn't even ask. And we tend to be more thoughtful in that way to our detriment. Cautious. Yeah. So I'm curious how your experience with women and negotiation.
I think that, and there's all the studies out there that say women don't ask as often. There were some new ones done, was it 2 years ago in Australia that actually showed younger women are asking more than their elder counterparts.
Awesome.
So,
okay.
I like that trend.
Brava to the young ladies out there who are asking for things almost as often as their male counterparts of the same age group. So
that's good.
That's
very happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's promising. I think a lot of women have the sort of once burned, twice shy around negotiation, where they may have tried once before and gotten either a very firm no or had it turn into a bad experience with, some of the biases people apply that if a woman is assertive, she's really aggressive.
Right.
If she's emotional, she's hysterical. If she asks for something, oh, look at her bossy boots over there. They get burned by that. And then at best, they sort of become more timid and soft and they scale back their requests. Worst is that they just stop altogether. They're like, that was a negative experience. I did not like the way that felt. I am now never going to do it again. And so a lot of women have to do work getting over that there's probably an experience in their past that has now trained them to not be a super ambitious negotiator. So that comes up a lot for women, I find.
And it might just be something in their personal life too, I'm imagining. I asked a friend for a favor, or I asked for something and I got judged or I got disappointed. So I don't want to do that again. Doesn't even have to be a big career-oriented negotiation necessarily to impact all future negotiations.
Exactly. We sort of allow ourselves to be taught lessons that aren't very good ones. It can be hard. It can be hard to come back from that. I think a big advantage a lot of women have going for them is that despite how timid we may become negotiating for ourselves, that a lot of women are very strongly driven by negotiating for others.
Yes.
And this is like the classic, this is the mama bear. This is if my child needs something, I will go after it. If my team that I lead at this company needs something, I will fight for their resources. So we can do a very good job doing that. And I think we can leverage that motivation for ourselves by sort of reminding ourselves of all the good that can come. What's the impact we have when we actually ask for ourselves?
Yes.
So it's in us. We just sort of have to learn to redirect it a little, use the fire in a different way.
Yes, that's such a good point. And yes, women are so programmed and culturally expected to put themselves last and to care about and take care of everyone else before themselves, that of course that would show up in negotiation. And I love this reframe of, well, you're already really good at advocating for other people. That means you're actually good at advocacy, which means you can apply that to yourself. which means, which is like this great little connect the dots that we get to do with ourselves. And I think a big part of that, sort of two things I think we can do a bit differently as women to sort of help everyone out on this, is one, to be aware that these sort of those biases about like aggressive, assertive, hysterical, emotional, we do it to other women as well. Like we've all worked with someone who just, we might have called her the dog with the bone, the pit bull, who wouldn't let go of something. And that's a woman being assertive and standing up for what was important to her. And the fellow females in the room would have judged her for that. We've all done it. So realize we can be part of the problem. So to try and be more supportive of a woman who is assertive, maybe she needs to massage her messaging a bit, but let's support that she's willing to go after something. At the same time, we need to actually help other women build the skills. It's not just about being a cheerleader, the sort of rah-rah pep talk. You go for it, girl. You go ask for that raise. Because if you get launched into a negotiation and you haven't prepared for it, you haven't built those skills, you're more likely to fall on your face. And that's not going to help you get up the next time. That's going to become one of those situations that then teaches you to never negotiate again. So we need to find this balance between being cheerleaders and motivators for one another, and then actually working on building the skill sets that will get us the results we need.
Right. The right kind of support for the women in our lives and for ourselves as well.
Yeah. I think that so much of what you're saying has to do with resilience, that when we learn how to be resilient people who can just fail in general and who can get up and like encourage other people to get up after they failed and to not think it's the end of the world. It's so much easier to negotiate for something when you've proven, I can do hard things in the past. I've fell on my face and I got back up and it was fine.
Yeah. So I didn't get the $20 million discount, but I got $10 million and that's okay.
Okay, right? I mean, I got $10 million.
On to the next one.
I also like this concept you're bringing up about judging others who are asking for things, because very often, It's not because you're actually judging them for doing that. It's because you're judging yourself that you haven't been advocating for yourself.
Right.
And it's easier to project that outward and say, oh, well, clearly she's the dog with the bone.
She's greedy or she's aggressive when I'm just jealous that I can't do that for myself.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Maybe do a little checking in with yourself and saying, oh, wait, is that actually because I want a version of that?
Yeah. Do some self-inventory on that.
This is the deep work.
Oh, yeah. So this is also bringing up another similar group, a lot of overlap probably in this one. Yeah. But we work with a lot of people who identify as people pleasers.
Yes.
I am a recovering people pleaser myself. So this is just as much for me as for everyone listening. And I have to imagine that this has to get in the way of negotiation because you want to please everyone else around you, which oftentimes means not pleasing yourself. So how is this showing up when you work with your clients around negotiation?
A lot of stuff comes up around not wanting to be an inconvenience.
Oh, yes, totally.
And this is something that I catch myself on. I mean, one of the things I hate to do is if I am at a, Starbucks, I need to use the bathroom. I hate to ask the barista for the key.
Yes.
And one part of that is I don't like to be human and admit that I need to use the facilities.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Like, really? Am I the only person on earth who needs to do this? After drinking like 2 venti frappuccino whatevers, And the other thing is that I know this barista is really busy and has a line of people, and I don't want to interrupt their flow to all of a sudden ask them to get me the key because that's going to inconvenience them.
Yep.
So I will hold it all the way home. And really.
So the first step to negotiation done differently is pee when you need to pee.
Pee when you need to pee. We can start with the basics.
Oh, that's so funny.
Simple human needs. But yeah, it really is, it takes a bit of reframing around, okay, is this truly an inconvenience? No. Is it kind of part of the other person's role? Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of their job description is to give you the bathroom key.
If you are asking for something politely, professionally, preferably with a bit of a smile, please and thank you. Yeah, that's a positive experience, even though you've had to interrupt whatever the other person was doing.
Yep. I'm thinking of, this has been a struggle of mine, and this is the smallest, stupidest thing, but I've had to really learn to speak up about this. When people get my order wrong at a restaurant and I have to send it back. Just the other day, I ordered something and I didn't want French fries with it. I wanted Brussels sprouts because I love Brussels sprouts. And they brought me...
Okay.
I know. Everyone's like, what?
I know. Well, I wanted the French fries, but I didn't want the French fries, And then they brought me the French fries. And I'm like, I don't want them to have to go and make that. And it would just take
They're going to
so
resent me now.
I'm going to be annoying. But I was like, no, I was looking forward to those Brussels sprouts. So I spoke up. But I feel like in years past, I might not have. I might have just been like, oh, that's too much trouble. The people pleaser, man, it's strong.
It is strong. And there's this great thing that happens where we start, we don't always have to ask for everything. We can let things go in life. Mm-hmm. It's that make sure we're letting it go as a conscious decision, not out of fear or not wanting to inconvenience someone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are times when, I really did want the French fries. So I'm going to accept this gift from the universe and eat my French fries.
Sure. Right.
C'est la vie.
Right.
Yeah. I think if it were flipped around and you really wanted the fries and someone gave you Brussels sprouts, other people may have a problem with that.
Right. They're not going to be like, I'll just eat that.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's being aware of when we're doing it and, checking in with what our actual motivator is behind keeping our mouth shut. Because, there are times I haven't negotiated.
Right.
And I have specific reasons why. I have a strategy for why I did not ask someone to pay me more money for something. Like I purposely limited my revenue. But I knew why I was doing it. It wasn't because I was scared. There's a method to the madness.
Right.
Yeah. The intention really does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to get the impression, and I doubt they would, because just hearing you talk for 30 minutes seems clear, but it's very clear that you're not going around your life negotiating every little thing. Like, that's clearly not what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're clearly like doing this when it matters, when it counts. You're being thoughtful about it. You're being intentional about it. You know your internal drives, you know your value system, and you're advocating for all of those things. And that doesn't mean you have to be like the most difficult person in the world and ask and negotiate for every stupid little thing. Definitely not.
Someone's like, can I borrow your pen? I'm like, let me see.
What am I going to get back for?
Well, right. I'll give it to you, but you have to buy me a new pen next week for interest. You know, like, clearly not. So this is funny because I think this is leading into like the next sort of phase of this conversation. And I mean, it's clear that one of the ways that we can actually start to negotiate when it comes to our career and asking for more money or resources or whatever it is that we want is we need to start advocating for ourselves in our daily life when it's easy, like the bathroom, the Brussels sprouts. We need to take note of where we aren't asking for what we need or standing up for ourselves or speaking up when it was called for. So this is just leading to a slightly different question than I had intended, but that's fine. I think we can work it in. Are there any other things like that of ways people can sort of work the negotiation muscle in their life, not just in like a boardroom or in an interview?
I think a lot of us end up in, like, say, certain routines with people in our lives. I think of this a lot with friend groups.
Yeah.
That, well, of course, we always go for, Chinese food on Fridays together. Or, well, of course, you always pay for the cab home. Or, of course, you always bake the cake for everyone's kid's birthday party. And we fall into these roles, and there's these things that happen and that are expected of us, and we don't necessarily like it, but we don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
And there are small ways in those relationships, which for the most part will be loving, will be supportive, will be true friendships, where we can start advocating and speaking up for when something doesn't work for us. And that, I think, is one of the safe spaces where we have an opportunity. And sometimes it even happens that, you have a chat with your best friend and say, look, I'm working on developing this skill. So my behavior might be a little different. And you know what? Do you want to work on this skill as well? We can hold each other accountable. We can help one another with learning how to speak up and go after what we want.
Yeah, you can almost prepare them in advance. I want to start advocating more for myself. And and I have to imagine, if people really love you, if they're your closest friends, if they're your spouse, if they're your family, they probably want to know how to make you happy. Yeah. Especially if you're being respectful of their wishes and desires as well, of course. But if you don't share what you want or what would make you happy, they don't actually get to give that to you. Yeah. And if they love you, they probably want to give that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And if you start speaking up and you're like, no, like, I'm sorry, I can't bake the cake for Saturday because I have a conflict, but I'm really happy to attend the birthday party later in the afternoon. And they get all bent out of shape and pissed off.
Right.
Time to reconsider the friendship. This is part of being a grown-up.
Well, and that, to me, and Kristen and I have worked with so many people who had to renegotiate, and literally this is so funny. I didn't mean to say renegotiate, but it's exactly what it is. Renegotiate the boundaries of a relationship with people, because so often with people pleasers or people who are very sensitive and they want to be nice to their family and their friends, they're overgiving left and right. And they do have to go in and redraw the lines of what's acceptable and what isn't. And when you treat people, or when you teach people how to treat you, and you've taught them that they can just take advantage of you or ask everything of you and you'll say yes, guess what's going to happen when you redraw the lines? They're going to throw a tantrum. That's what happens. That's actually fine. They'll get over it eventually if you stay firm. But yeah.
Or if they don't, that's not going to be a sustainable relationship.
It might not be the most healthy relationship, and you might deserve to keep your distance. But yes, relationships require renegotiation. And that's a really powerful thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. What a good point. So, okay. You said earlier that one of the biggest fears people have is being an inconvenience. And so I want to turn this on its head and ask you, why is negotiation not inconvenient? Why is it a great thing? Why is it awesome? Why should we all be doing it?
Like negotiation for everybody.
Right.
One of the big things that comes up with that, and this ties into my whole take on negotiation done differently, is that in I'm using my big air quotes here, the classic negotiation, which is more business boardroom driven and winner takes all and all that, is we spend an awful lot of time focusing on what we want. Me, I. It becomes this navel gazing activity. We become horribly self-obsessed because all of our strategizing and preparation and pep talks are around getting what we want. And we really forget that there are other human beings involved.
Yeah.
So when I advise, my clients, okay, big negotiation or small, these are the steps you would take. Step 1, yes, get clear on what you really want. Tap into what doesn't feel good, what could be better, what could be different, what you want more, what you want less of. Get really clear on that so that at least you're heading in the right direction, because you don't want to get to the end of a negotiation and realize you all of a sudden didn't get what you really wanted or needed. Have to do it all over again. The second step is actually thinking about the other person. What do they want? What do they need? What pressures could they be facing? What stress could they have? What are things they could be looking for you to bring differently, more, less? And really trying to see where there is the overlap or the play between those two areas. Because when you make a proposal in a negotiation, it's, if you can do this for me, then I can do this for you. There's a give and a take. And if you never think about what the other person could want, it's always going to have this clunky, aggressive feeling. And, no good.
And that does come across as kind of greedy and selfish. Right. So it doesn't have to be that way, but that is the interpretation people have had.
Yep. Okay. So you have step 1, get clear on what you want. Step 2, figure out what the other person might want and take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. Do we have more steps?
I mean, there probably are. We don't have to ask her to give them all away, but I do want to hear.
Step 3 then becomes coming up with a sort of game plan, which is, we're all afraid to hear the no. Okay, what happens when I hear the no?
Right.
Not if I hear a no. When I hear the no.
Hopefully you do.
Now we're established no is a good thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
No is a good thing. Okay, I have aimed high. I wanted my raise of 20%. Okay, when I hear a no, where do I take it from there? And this is, I call them like little back pocket ideas. That if someone's like, oh, sorry, I can't do that because budgets are tight. You're like, badam, here's another proposal.
Right.
Addresses the concern that budgets are tight. It's like, oh, no, sorry, we can't because, the timeline. Badam, here's another proposal that addresses the timeline issue. And it helps you feel confident and prepared that whatever they throw at you, you're a step ahead.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And this is why actually taking the time to think before you negotiate.
Right.
sounds super simple, but take the time to think so that you're not caught off guard as often. There's always going to be something. But if you're surprise proof, if you've got those little plans, if you sort of have an idea of where you could take something, depending on how the other person reacts to you, you're going to be able to actually move that conversation forward. So you want to spend some time coming up with those little back pocket mini deals. Great.
I love that.
Yeah. Always be like a few steps ahead. Love that. So, okay.
It makes it fun. I don't know. I'm here like with my little hands while we're talking going, bam, on the table, bam, on the table.
I can see it now. You're just whipping them out. So a question has popped into my mind as you were talking about, this is maybe a really technical question, but it's one I think a lot of people struggle with is, how much money can I negotiate for, like, beyond what they said they would give me before it gets ridiculous or egregious? Like, is there a percentage that's like, okay, you can actually ask for a lot more than you think you can ask for? Because people sometimes are like, well, I guess I'll ask for like 5,000 more. And I'm like, that seems like not enough. So is there a rule of thumb in that arena or no?
It's hard to give like a percentage or a number wise rule of thumb, because a lot of it, and especially, I guess whether it comes down to a salary situation or, if you're an entrepreneur and you're working with your clients, is knowing, like, pretty much figuring out your market value.
Right.
And so, for someone who has the same job at your company, the same job at a different company, a similar job, different city, like you do your research. There's a lot of, like the pay scale, Glassdoor. If you're in startups, the angel.io, I think it is, has good salary information. And then if you figure out that, most people with this job, they're earning about 70. Okay. So to ask for maybe 75. Mm-hmm. Because you want to be a little cheeky. You're still in the realm of reason. Like, it's not like everything, all the numbers say, all the surveys say, oh gosh, Family Feud just came into my head.
Right.
The survey says 70,000 and you're jumping up and down in the corner going, I want 120. I want 120.
Right.
That's probably not going to work so well for you.
Right.
But if survey says 70, you're like, 75.
Right. Because you're still going for the no.
Because I am super fantastic. Yeah. And because I know you're going to say no. So then we'll talk about it and maybe I'll get close to the 70 I knew I should be around anyway.
Yeah. Right. They're not going to try to lowball me after that.
Yeah. Which comes, to be very technical about it, a lot of it comes down to the thing called anchoring, which is where when we are trying to make a decision or in a negotiation, the first piece of information we hear will have a big impact on how we behave. So like if we've seen a television advertised for like 800, and then all of a sudden it drops to 700, we're like, ooh,
what a deal. Right.
It might only be worth 200, but we were programmed at 800.
Right.
So we can use that same technique by ask for the 75. So if all of a sudden the other person was going to say 40, they're going, oh no, 40 sounds way too low. I can't say 40.
Yeah.
I know, I'll say 50 instead. They've moved closer to your direction because you took the initiative and you started that conversation.
So throwing out the first number puts you in the ballpark that you want to be in.
Yeah. It's like on your website, if you're selling something and you list a price, if a website redesign is $10,000, say prices start at $10,000. Because if someone only has $100, they're not going to come waste your time with a consult call.
Right.
It helps you set expectation for where a discussion takes place.
So, okay, there are some pretty common things I feel like people know to negotiate. Money is obviously the first one, but I'm sure there's like vacation time and benefits and things like that. But I'm guessing there's a list of things that are longer than would occur to most people of things you could actually negotiate. So what are some things that we don't even realize we could or should be negotiating?
Okay, one thing that comes up is we will be trained to make a reservation at a restaurant. And we just say, yeah, table for two. We can ask for a table in the window. We can ask for a table in a quiet section. We could ask for a table beside the bathroom if we wanted to.
Right.
There's an extra level of request that we can make, as opposed to what just sort of is the normal, like, yeah, make sure I have two chairs and a table when I arrive. So that type of thing comes up.
You could ask for ambiance as opposed to just number of seats.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it, I think, comes down to the minute we take money out of it, because of course everyone's like, yeah, more money, is, it sounds very woo-woo of me, but it's this idea of energy and how things feel. Like, what could make something feel better? And it could be that, like, I, for one, am very much not a morning person. So it feels bad to me when someone books an 8 a.m. meeting.
Yes, totally.
It feels very bad. I will then ask, can we please move this to 9? And that is me negotiating to make sure something feels good, to make sure I have my energy. Do I feel like I could be inconveniencing them? Yes, maybe 9 won't work. But ultimately, getting me on the phone at 9 a.m. is going to be much more value add than getting me on the phone at 8 a.m.
Right.
So it works out well for them in the end.
Right.
Right. They're going to get a better version of you.
Exactly. So I think anything, it's hard to give examples because it will be so unique for everyone, but it's those little moments in life where you're just kind of like, sigh, this doesn't feel very good.
Right.
Or if you find yourself really longing for something, like, like I really like to have a cupcake, and asking someone, may I have a cupcake?
Well, it's like, what would add to my quality of life? How am I going to get closer to feeling how I want to feel? And I think that, so what, they're like, we really can't give you more than X amount of money. Okay, well, could you give me one work from home day a week? Could I work remotely sometimes? Could I have,
a dog to the office?
Yeah, there you go. Right. Work with my pet. Like, could I have some time to volunteer every week then? There are so many things that could help you feel better or more excited or more grounded or just, make you make your quality of life enhanced. And that's really what negotiation is all about, isn't it? Like getting to lead a higher quality of life and then being a happier person, and that having a ripple effect on the quality of work that you do and the type of person you're showing up as in your work and your life.
It's a transformation. Again, It's transforming your experiences to be closer to what you would prefer.
Yeah. So anything really can count as a negotiation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the smallest things. And I mean, I never even thought about that before. Well, could I reserve a table next to a window?
Right.
That would make me feel better. Right. So just checking in with yourself on a regular basis and saying, what would I prefer in this situation? Okay. Could I ask for that?
Yeah.
With a please and a thank you and a little smile. Right. Okay.
And I deserve to ask for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I'm worthy of asking for that. Now that's a whole nother can of worms we aren't going to go into right now. But
like, do we have 18 million hours?
Well, they know that's what we do. Kristen and I, that's what we do. So like, if they have worthiness problems, they know that they can talk to us for months on end about that if they want to. So, okay. The last thing we want to ask you is if you have any like good little vignettes or stories or examples of people who implemented some negotiation strategies that you recommend, and like what happened, like any good sort of like an inspirational bolt. I was going to say jolt to leave these people inspired with.
Yeah. Two come to mind right away. One is my very first client when I started, and I worked with her to help her change her rates for the clients she was working with. They'd been, stuck the same way for years and years. And we had her sort of baby step in terms of, it didn't have to be, I'm quadrupling my rates overnight. Yeah. It's pick one of the clients that you have a strong relationship with. So we're starting in a safe space, and you're going to raise your rate by 25%. And it was getting her to practice. This is the script, this is what you're going to be asking for. This is why you are asking for it. And she called me up after it was done, because accountability is important. Yeah. And it turned out for that month, it was going to be something like an extra $500, which coming from the big corporate world isn't a lot of money. But for her family, it meant that she was able to pay for a week at camp for her kid.
Oh, it's so awesome.
And that was one of the moments where it's like, okay, this can feel good. She was motivated to do it again. It was instant payback for her and her family. And it's because we started small. We took the baby step, and it built and built. And so every time now I see what she's doing in her business, I'm like that, proud negotiation mama behind the scenes.
Oh, that is so great. It's like this one conversation that I had the courage to have allowed my kid to have a really fun week. And then I got to experience the joy that they were experiencing.
Yeah. What a win-win.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. And other ones is sort of, it's, working with a client who had just gotten a promotion in her job and now had to show up in a very different way because all of a sudden there were people underneath and there were people still up above, and how are we going to navigate this? And it was really helping her figure out how to shift messaging in a way that still felt, it's genuine, it's not manipulative, in order to express to different people within an organization why she needed what she needed for her team. And over the course of our time together, we're building the training wheels, we're doing our work slowly. And all of a sudden I stopped getting questions and I got a little worried. And instead I got updates of, this is what I did, just letting you know. And it was like birdie out of the nest, off and flying. And it felt good. And there was this great cycle that then happened with women on her team who would then be like willing to ask her for things. And she's like, you know what? I was a little put out at first because I don't want them negotiating with me. But you know what? Go for it. Negotiate with me. Like, this is leading by example. So I think being aware that by showing up and negotiating positively and professionally and not being as afraid, we are setting a fabulous example for people around us.
Yes.
The ripple effect you can have among people around you is huge. I mean, and then imagine that the women that she inspired will go on to inspire more people. I mean, we just all need to be setting this example that you can ask for what you want and you can do it in a pleasant, win-win kind of a way.
Yeah. The first story you shared has me thinking, and it's just like one point that I really want to make before we wrap up, because I just feel like it's super important that people will and actually want to often pay you more money, pay you what you're worth. Because, I mean, I think about it. If I'm hiring a coach or a therapist and they're undercharging severely, I'm going to wonder what the heck's wrong with them. Like, they must be terrible. They must be brand new. They must have no experience. No, thank you. I want someone who respects themselves enough to charge what they're worth, because then that calms my fear. And I think that's true too. If you're employed and do you really want to work for the employer who wants to get the least amount of, to give you the least amount of money for the most amount of work? That feels like a really gross relationship. I think that I want to work for the place that is willing to pay me what I'm worth, because I think that's indicative of the type of relationship we'll have moving forward.
Spot on. Love it.
Okay. I just had to make that point.
Well, I'm thinking about that's a recipe for resentment. So if you want to work with a therapist and you pay them less than they feel like they deserve, they're going to be kind of resentful of working with you. That's not the foundation for a great relationship.
That's really what I want my mental health to be like.
I wouldn't want employees of mine to resent me because they can barely pay their bills. That does not feel like it's going to be a really great relationship for either of us.
Right.
So we don't need to resent anyone. We can just say, this is what I want or need.
Yeah, this isn't working for me. Here is what would work for me.
Yes.
How do we make this work for you?
So good.
Have a discussion.
So, okay, obviously we've had a million questions and I felt like we barely scratched the surface, but that's okay. We don't want to overwhelm people with negotiation. I think that they might need to step into this slowly and let this take root over the course of a matter of weeks or months, maybe.
Precisely.
But where can they find you, and where can you direct people if they want to learn more and if they're inspired and they want to connect with you?
I would definitely point people in the direction of my blog over at devonsmiley.com. And I've covered quite the range of issues over there. And I'm always sharing new things, articles, videos, offering advice. And my main goal over there is that it's negotiation that feels different, that feels good, and that is accessible. So there's a little bit of humor. There's ways to baby step your way into this to start building the skills. And I think that's a really fabulous place for people to start.
We need baby steps and humor when it comes to this kind of a topic, because it feels heavy and it feels scary.
You need to laugh about negotiation.
Yeah, so I love that you're infusing that in. Okay, so today was Negotiation 101. If you want some follow-up information, go definitely check out Devon's blog.
And we will link to that in the episode description. And Devon, I want to thank you for doing this interview with us. This was so fun. And I want to also thank you for just doing this work and inspiring women and, men too, but we have mostly women listening to this, as you can imagine, to advocate for themselves and to have the higher quality of life that they deserve and inspire other people to make that change too. Because again, really, this is not about getting more stuff or hoarding more resources. This is about living the best version of your life and being the happiest, most contented person you can be because of that.
I'm already thinking about little things that I want to start asking for that I never even thought of before. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that you two are using your platform to help women develop these skills. So
high fives all around.
High fives all around.
Okay. Well,
awesome.
Should we say au revoir? I'm a terrible French accent. I'm trying.
Au revoir.
Okay, bye. I'll talk to you later.
Till next time.
Ooh, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you,
Bye,
Devon.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. If you would like some relevant listening, you want more on this, then we've got a few podcasts that you should listen to after this episode.
Okay. One, this is a really, really classic throwback from September 2018. A former recruiter tells all and helps you get hired with Emily Liu. I mean, the only conversation we've had thus far with a recruiter. You should be interested in that.
And she gives some really nitty-gritty advice. That's not what you're thinking.
Nitty-gritty.
Yeah,
Like
she does. It is real street.
You have no idea what that means, and neither do I. Okay. And the next one.
It's the real deal.
Okay.
The next one is Navigating a Toxic Workplace with Stacey Campisi from February 2019. And if you are in a toxic workplace, I guarantee you need to be negotiating for some things. You need to be setting some boundaries. You need to be asking for things to be different. So this topic will be very relevant to you.
And of course, if you struggle with any of this, people pleasing, asking for what you want, you need to go back and listen to our #1 most popular. I feel like I just beat this over the head like all the time, but you know what? It's popular for a reason. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our side chat from May 2018, Curing Your People Pleasing Disease. A real classic.
And very relevant because when you're a people pleaser, asking for what you want is super scary.
Which is why I put people pleasing in the title of this episode. Okay, so we will be back on Tuesday with a new blog. I think it's from me. God knows. God willing, I'll have an idea by that point.
It'll be some kind of a blog.
And then next Friday, just as an even more juicy heads up, I hate the word juicy. I apologize for using it. We're doing a bonus book club.
We know some of you guys love the bonus book clubs because you told us in a survey.
You should always love it. Every one of you should love it.
And especially
if you don't.
Especially because it's more rare. It's a little bit more special. Yep. So we've got one coming up next week.
Yep. I'm just going to tell them what we're reading. We're reading Dodging Energy Vampires by Christian Northrup, MD.
Guarantee you, some of you have energy vampires in your life, and we're going to tell you how to deal with them.
Well, if you're a people pleaser, you're way likely to have an energy vampire, at least one, floating around your life. Actually, we all are, because like 1 in 5 people is an energy vampire.
So I know you know one.
Yeah, multiple. Okay, so we will see you on Tuesday and then on Friday for a bonus book club.
See you then.